My wife cheated on me with her gym trainer, and when I found out, she begged me not to divorce, but... Hey Reddit, I honestly never thought I'd be posting here, but here I am. I've been married to my wife Lisa for 12 years. We've got 2 kids together, and for the most part, I thought we were doing okay. We live a pretty normal life in the suburbs, nothing fancy, but we're comfortable. I work long hours at the warehouse, and Lisa stays at home with the kids most of the time, but she recently started hitting the gym regularly. At first, I thought it was a good thing. She wanted to get in shape, and I was supportive. I mean, who wouldn't want their spouse to feel good about themselves? But then things started getting weird. It wasn't just a casual gym trip anymore. Lisa was going almost every day, sometimes twice a day. She'd dress in these tight leggings and sports bras that I had never seen her wear before. I didn't mind it at first, she looked good, but then there was the way she kept talking about this guy named Ryan, her personal trainer. At first, it was just, "Oh, Ryan showed me how to do this exercise," or "Ryan says I'm making great progress." I didn't think much of it. But then she started talking about him all the time. It wasn't just gym talk anymore, Ryan this, Ryan that. She even started wearing makeup to the gym, which was odd because she never really cared about that kind of thing before. That's when I felt the first tug of something being wrong, but I told myself not to be paranoid. I mean, we've been together for 12 years. Why would she cheat on me? Well, last Saturday, I had just finished working a double shift. I was tired but figured I'd swing by the gym to surprise her. I hadn't seen much of her the past few days between work and her constant gym trips, so I thought maybe we could grab a coffee or something after her workout. When I got there, though, she wasn't anywhere in sight. I asked one of the staff, and they casually mentioned that Ryan had left a little while ago. I had this sinking feeling in my gut. You know when something just doesn't sit right? So I walked out to the parking lot, and there she was. Lisa was getting into Ryan's car. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I got in my car and followed them. They drove to this apartment complex on the other side of town. I parked a few spots away and just sat there, watching as they went inside together. My hands were shaking so bad I could hardly hold my phone. Part of me wanted to storm in there and confront them, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I didn't want to make a scene, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready to face what I knew was happening. Instead, I took a picture of their cars parked next to each other. I don't know why, it just felt like something I needed to do. Then I drove home, my mind racing the whole way. That night, when she got home, she acted like nothing had happened. She was all casual, talking about how hard her workout had been, how Ryan had pushed her to her limits. It made me sick to listen to her. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, nodding, pretending like I didn't know what I had seen. But eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled out my phone and showed her the picture of her car next to Ryan's. Her face went pale. She stammered, trying to come up with an excuse. "Oh, Ryan needed help with something," she said. It was nothing, really. I could tell she was lying. She's always been a terrible liar. After a few minutes of her stumbling over her words, she finally admitted it. She had been seeing him for months, not just at the gym but outside of it too. She swore it hadn't been physical at first, but things just happened. She said she never meant for it to go this far, but it had, and now she didn't know what to do. I was numb. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even feel angry at that moment. I was just broken. 12 years of marriage, 2 kids, and now this? I couldn't even process what she was saying. It felt like the life we had built was crumbling right in front of me. Anyway, I'll stop here for now. I'm not sure where to go from here. I haven't told anyone yet. Not my family, not her family, no one. I just needed to get this out. I feel like my whole world's been turned upside down, and I don't even know how to begin to fix it. It's been a few days since that conversation, and I'm still struggling to figure out what to do next. Every time I look at Lisa, all I can see is her getting into Ryan's car, walking into that apartment. It's like a broken record playing in my head, over and over again. I haven't been able to sleep. I just lie there at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how it all went so wrong. How did we end up here? Lisa's been acting like she's sorry, but honestly, I don't know if I believe her. She keeps saying how she didn't mean for it to happen, how it was a mistake, but at the same time, she hasn't stopped going to the gym. She claims she's stopped seeing Ryan outside of it, but how can I trust that? I caught her once. What's stopping her from doing it again? just being more careful this time. I thought about leaving. Just packing a bag and staying at a hotel for a while, but then there's the kids. They're too young to understand what's going on, and I don't want them to get dragged into this mess. I'm trying to act normal around them, but it's so damn hard. Every time they ask, "Where's mommy?" I feel like I'm going to lose it. I want to scream to tell them the truth, but I can't do that to them. They're innocent in all of this. So, I'm just going through the motions right now. Work, home, repeat. I've barely said 2 words to Lisa since that night. I can tell it's making her nervous. She's been trying to talk to me, trying to explain things, but I'm not ready to hear it. I don't want her excuses. I want to know why she did it. I want to understand how she could throw away everything we've built for some guy at the gym. What hurts the most is that I didn't see this coming. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never thought she'd do something like this. I keep replaying the past year in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Did she seem distant? Was she less affectionate? I don't know. I guess I was too busy with work to notice. Maybe that's part of the problem. I wasn't around enough. But then again, why didn't she say anything? If she was unhappy, if she felt like something was missing, why didn't she talk to me instead of running to Ryan? That's what's eating me up inside. She didn't give me a chance to fix things. She just cheated. A part of me wants to confront Ryan, to show up at the gym and punch him in the face. But what good would that do? It won't change what happened. It won't take away the betrayal. And to be honest, it's not just Ryan's fault. Lisa made a choice. She could have said no. She could have walked away. But she didn't. I've been thinking about getting a lawyer, just to see what my options are. Not that I'm ready to file for divorce or anything. I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'll ever be ready for that. But I feel like I need to protect myself, just in case. The thought of splitting up our family terrifies me. I don't want to lose my kids. I don't want to be the guy who only sees them on weekends or holidays. But at the same time, I don't know if I can stay in this marriage. How do you rebuild trust after something like this? How do you look at your spouse the same way after they've been with someone else? I don't have the answers, and it's driving me crazy. For now, I'm just trying to get through each day. I've been avoiding my friends because I don't want to talk about it, don't want to admit what's happening. I feel embarrassed, like this whole situation somehow makes me less of a man. I know that's stupid, but it's how I feel. Lisa keeps asking if we can go to counseling, but I'm not sure if it'll help. I mean, what's the point of sitting in a room, talking about our feelings, when she's the one who blew up our marriage? I feel like I'm the one who should be mad, but somehow, she's making me feel guilty, like I should have done more to keep her happy. How does that even make sense? Anyway, I'm rambling now. I guess I'm just trying to make sense of it all. Part of me wonders if it's even possible to move on from this, to forgive her. But then I think about that apartment, about her lying to me, and it feels impossible. I'll keep you posted, Reddit. I could use some advice on what to do next though. Should I go to counseling, like she's asking? Or should I just focus on figuring out my next move on my own? Since my last update, things have only gotten more complicated. I tried to go about life as normally as I could, but the tension in the house is unbearable. Lisa keeps tiptoeing around me, trying to act like everything's fine, but we both know it isn't. We haven't really talked about what happened since that night I confronted her, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to. What's left to say? She cheated, she lied, and now I'm supposed to just move on? The other night, she brought up counseling again. She said, we need to talk, really talk, and figure out what we want to do. I wasn't in the mood for it. Not after everything. But she kept pushing, saying we owed it to the kids to try. That's when I snapped. I told her, we didn't do anything. You did this. You're the one who decided our marriage wasn't enough. She just stood there, looking hurt, like I was being unfair or something. That's what really gets to me. She acts like this is something we're both responsible for, like I'm somehow to blame for her running off with Ryan. And she's still going to that damn gym. I asked her why, and she said she's not going to let what happened ruin the one thing that makes her feel good. Can you believe that? The gym, where she met the guy she cheated with, is the one thing that makes her feel good? Not her family, not our life together, but the gym. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. After the kids went to bed, I sat Lisa down. I needed to know the truth. I asked her, point blank, if she was still seeing Ryan. She looked at me like I was crazy and said, "No, of course not. It's over." But I could see the hesitation in her eyes. She's not a great liar, and I could tell she wasn't being entirely honest. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone. I know it's wrong. I know it's an invasion of privacy. But at this point, I didn't care. I had to know. If she was going to lie to my face, I needed to find the truth for myself. I waited until she was asleep and went into the kitchen to grab her phone. She never locks it, so it was easy. I felt like an idiot scrolling through her messages, but there it was. A whole conversation with Ryan, and it wasn't just casual talk. They had been meeting up again. It wasn't every day or anything, but enough. She wasn't lying about it being over physically, at least from what I could see, but the emotional connection was still very much there. She was texting him about her day, complaining about me, talking about how hard things were at home. And he, of course, was being the supportive guy, telling her how strong she was and how she deserved better. I felt sick reading it. I didn't wake her up that night. I just went back to bed and lay there, staring at the ceiling again. I couldn't believe this was happening. Even after I caught her, she still hadn't really stopped. Sure, maybe she wasn't sneaking off to his apartment anymore, but she hadn't cut him out of her life either. And for what? Because he made her feel good? What about how she's making me feel? What about the kids? I'm still trying to process all of this. The betrayal feels even deeper now. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could try to work through it, but how do you do that when the person who hurt you is still talking to the one they cheated with? Lisa has no idea I went through her phone, and I haven't decided if I'm going to confront her about it yet. Part of me wants to, but another part of me just feels exhausted by the whole thing. It's like, what's the point? She's just going to lie again or make excuses. I did talk to a lawyer this week though. Not because I'm filing for divorce right now, but because I needed to know my options. It's scary, thinking about splitting up our family, but I also know I can't live like this forever. The lawyer explained everything: custody, splitting assets, the whole 9 yards. It's overwhelming, honestly. The thought of starting over, of being a part-time dad, of not waking up with my kids every morning, it tears me apart. But at the same time, I can't keep pretending everything's okay. I can't keep living in this house, pretending to be a happy family when I know she's still talking to the guy she cheated with. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. I guess what I need advice on is, do I confront her again? Do I tell her I know she's still talking to Ryan? Or do I just quietly get my ducks in a row, plan my exit, and leave before things get even messier? I'm torn between wanting to fight for my family and wanting to get as far away from this nightmare as possible. If anyone's been through something like this, I could really use some guidance. This whole thing has me questioning everything: my marriage, my judgment, my future. I don't even know who I am anymore. The day after I found those messages, I tried to go about life as usual. You know, getting the kids ready for school, heading to work, all the typical stuff. But it was hard. Every time I saw Lisa, I felt this gut-wrenching mix of anger and sadness. I thought about saying something right then and there, but something held me back. Maybe I wasn't ready for another confrontation yet. Maybe I needed time to think. I don't know. I'm still not sure if waiting was the right move. At work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept replaying those texts in my head, reading between the lines. There was this one message in particular that stuck with me. She had texted Ryan, "It's just so hard at home right now. I feel like I'm suffocating." And he replied, "You deserve better. I'll always be here for you." I mean, what does that even mean? Suffocating? I'm not perfect, but I've never been anything but supportive of her. I never raised my voice. I never stopped her from doing what she wanted. If anything, I've been the one bending over backward to make sure she's happy, to keep things stable for our family. And now she's playing the victim? Like this whole situation is somehow my fault? I talked to a close friend of mine at work, Rob. I hadn't told him anything about the cheating yet, just that things weren't great at home. Rob's been married longer than I have, so I figured maybe he'd have some advice. We were on break, sitting outside the warehouse, and I just blurted out, "What would you do if you found out your wife was talking to another guy behind your back?" He looked at me, kind of confused. "Like texting?" he asked. "Yeah, texting. Hanging out. You know, more than that." Rob was quiet for a minute. Then he said, "If my wife was sneaking around like that, I'd confront her. No question. But you have to be ready for whatever comes next. Like what? I asked. Like the possibility that things don't go back to how they were. Even if she stops, it's hard to move past that kind of betrayal. You have to decide if you can really forgive her or if you're just going to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your marriage. That hit me hard. I had been so focused on the immediate pain of the affair, I hadn't really thought about the long term. Even if Lisa and I worked through this, would I ever really be able to trust her again? Or would I be constantly suspicious, wondering who she was texting, where she was going, if she was really at the gym? When I got home that night, Lisa was acting normal again. Too normal, actually. She was cooking dinner, chatting with the kids, and trying to include me in the conversation like we were some perfect little family. I couldn't stand it. I could barely look at her without feeling that gut punch all over again. After the kids went to bed, she tried to talk to me. She sat down on the couch next to me, saying how she missed me, how things felt off between us and she wanted to fix it. I didn't say much. I just nodded along, not really listening to her words. I was waiting for her to mention Ryan, waiting for her to confess that she was still in touch with him. But she didn't. Instead, she started talking about how we should go on a trip, just the two of us, to get away for a weekend and reconnect. She said maybe we could go somewhere up north, just a short getaway to reset things. I almost laughed. I mean, a trip? Seriously? Like a weekend away would magically fix everything that was broken. I told her I wasn't ready for that. There's too much to figure out right here, I said. Running off to a cabin won't solve anything. She looked hurt, of course. She always does this thing where she acts like she's the one being wronged. Like I'm the one refusing to try, when she's the one who broke our trust in the first place. But she backed off after that, went to bed without pushing the issue further. I stayed up late that night, pacing around the house, trying to make sense of what my next move should be. I thought about Rob's words. You have to be ready for whatever comes next. But how do you prepare for something like this? I don't know if I'm strong enough to be the guy who just moves on, who pretends everything is okay for the sake of the kids. But I'm also not sure I'm strong enough to walk away from it all. Not yet, anyway. The next morning, I decided to set a boundary. I told Lisa we needed to talk, and this time, I wasn't going to let her steer the conversation. I told her I knew she was still talking to Ryan. I told her I had seen the texts, and I asked her why she didn't just end it like she said she would. Her face went pale again. It's like she didn't even think she'd get caught. She started stammering, I was going to. I just didn't want to hurt him. He's been a good friend through all this. A friend. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Lisa, he's the guy you cheated with. You can't keep talking to him like nothing happened. She looked down at the floor, tears welling up in her eyes, but I wasn't moved by it. Not this time. I told her if she wanted any chance at fixing this, she had to cut all contact with Ryan. Completely. No texts, no calls, no gym sessions. Nothing. I told her that was the only way we could even begin to move forward. She promised she would, but I don't know if I believe her. I want to. God, I want to believe her, but how many times has she lied already? I feel like I'm stuck in this impossible situation, trying to protect my kids while also trying to figure out what the hell to do with my marriage. I'm not ready to make any big decisions yet, but I know things can't keep going like this. Something has to change, or I'm going to lose my mind. Has anyone else been through this? How do you know when it's time to pull the plug on a marriage? Or is there really a way to get through something like this and come out the other side stronger? I'm lost here, Reddit. Any advice is welcome. After our last conversation, things in the house got colder. Lisa said she'd stopped talking to Ryan, but I couldn't bring myself to believe her. Not yet. How could I? The trust between us is shattered. Even if she did cut him off, how do I know she won't just find someone else, some other friend, to lean on when things get tough? I don't want to be the guy who's constantly checking up on his wife, looking over her shoulder, questioning everything. But right now, that's exactly who I am. Every time she's on her phone, my heart starts racing. I keep wondering if it's him. If she's deleting messages, being more careful this time. It's exhausting, and I'm running out of energy to deal with it. Last night, something happened that really hit me. We were having dinner with the kids, trying to keep things normal, when our oldest, Matt, asked, "Mom, are you going to the gym tomorrow?" I could see the look on Lisa's face. She froze for a second, probably realizing how loaded that question was for both of us. The gym used to be her escape. Now, it's the place that symbolizes the betrayal. Lisa forced a smile and said, "I'm not sure yet, sweetie. We'll see." But the way she said it, I could tell she didn't know how to handle it. Maybe she's still going, maybe she's trying to figure out a way to go without me finding out. Either way, that little moment with Matt brought everything back up. I wanted to scream right there at the dinner table, to demand answers, but I didn't want the kids to see me lose it. After we put the kids to bed, I sat in the living room, flipping through channels on the TV, not really watching anything. Lisa came and sat next to me, and there was this heavy silence between us. Finally, she broke it. "I haven't talked to him since we had that conversation," she said softly. "I blocked his number." I looked at her, and for the first time in a while, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, but fear of losing everything. It was like she finally realized how serious this was, how close we were to the edge of something we might not come back from. "Okay," I said, but I didn't know what else to say. I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel like things were suddenly better. It was just one small step, but there were still miles to go. "I'm sorry, Jake," she continued, her voice cracking. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I don't know why I did it. I was just, I don't know, lost, I guess." Her apology felt genuine, but I've heard it all before. I've been stuck in this loop of apologies and excuses for weeks now. What I needed wasn't more words. I needed action. I needed to see if she was really going to change. "I'm going to need more than just words, Lisa," I told her. "I'm going to need time. A lot of time. And I don't know if I can ever get past this." She nodded, tears starting to roll down her cheeks. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said. "I just don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose our family. That's the part that always messes with me. Despite everything she's done, I can see she's scared. I can see that she wants to fix things. But there's a difference between wanting to fix something and actually being able to fix it. And honestly, I don't know if I can get there. It's not just about her anymore. It's about me. It's about whether I can ever feel whole again in this marriage." The next day, I decided to talk to my mom. She's always been the one person I can count on to give me advice straight, no sugarcoating. I hadn't told her anything about the affair yet. I was embarrassed, I guess. I didn't want my family to know that my wife had betrayed me. But I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. We met up at a cafe near her place. After some small talk, I just came out with it. "Lisa's been cheating," I said, watching my mom's face closely. Her eyes went wide, but she didn't interrupt me. She just sat there, listening while I told her everything. About the gym, about Ryan, about the messages. By the time I was done, my hands were shaking. I hadn't realized how much I'd been holding in. "I don't know what to do," I said finally. "She says she's sorry. She says she'll stop talking to him. But I don't know if I can trust her anymore. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way." My mom reached across the table and put her hand on mine. "Jake, honey, you're going through hell right now, and I can't tell you what to do. But I will say this, trust takes time to rebuild. If she's serious about fixing this, she'll have to prove it to you every single day, and that's going to be hard. Really hard. You need to think about what's best for you and for the kids. Don't rush into any decisions. That's what I'm struggling with. I know I don't have to decide right away. But the longer I wait, the more I feel like I'm dragging myself through this emotional minefield. Every day I wake up wondering if today will be the day I find out she's still lying, or if she's really changed. Every day is a battle to hold it together, to keep it from affecting the kids, to not completely break down. I don't know what the future holds for us. Part of me wants to believe we can get through this, that maybe someday we'll be stronger because of it. But another part of me wonders if the damage is too deep, if there's too much pain to ever really heal. For now, I'm just taking it day by day. Trying to figure out what I want, what I need. But the one thing I know for sure is that I can't go on like this forever. Something has to give. I'll update again when I figure out the next step. But if anyone's been in this situation, how did you know when it was time to leave? Or if you stayed, how did you rebuild the trust? Because right now, I feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, and I have no idea if I should take the leap or step back. Since I last posted, I've been feeling more lost than ever. Every day, I'm trying to hold it together for the kids, but inside, I'm barely hanging on. Lisa has been trying harder, I'll give her that. She's been more attentive, more present, and she hasn't mentioned Ryan since that last conversation where she promised to cut him off for good. But if I'm honest, her efforts feel like too little, too late. A few days ago, something happened that brought everything crashing down again. It was a Saturday, and we were supposed to spend the day as a family, just something simple like taking the kids to the park and grabbing lunch afterward. I was determined to make it a good day for them, even though things between Lisa and me were still awkward. I figured, if nothing else, we could pretend to be a happy family for a few hours. Maybe that would help, right? Well, before we left the house, I noticed Lisa was acting strange again. She was glued to her phone, typing furiously. I didn't say anything at first because I didn't want to start another argument, but my gut was telling me something was off. She had that same look she had when I first noticed her getting too close to Ryan, nervous, almost jumpy. I don't know what came over me, but I couldn't let it slide. I asked her, "Who are you texting?" I tried to keep my tone casual, but I could feel the tension rising. She looked up at me, her eyes widening for a split second before she said, "Oh, it's just my mom. She's asking about dinner plans for next weekend." Now, maybe before all of this, I would have believed her without a second thought. But not anymore. I know how she looks when she's lying. I've seen it too many times now. So I waited until she went upstairs to get ready, and I did something I swore I wouldn't do again. I checked her phone. And there it was. A new message thread with Ryan. It wasn't long. It wasn't anything like the conversations I had found before. But the fact that it existed at all was enough. He had texted her earlier that morning, asking if she wanted to grab coffee after her workout. She hadn't responded, at least not that I could see, but the fact that she hadn't blocked him like she said she would, that was it for me. The trust, whatever little there was left, was completely gone. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like my heart had just been ripped out of my chest all over again. I thought we were past this. I thought maybe, just maybe, we could work through it if she really cut him out of her life. But here she was, still keeping him around, even if she wasn't meeting up with him. I put her phone back on the counter and went outside to clear my head. I didn't know what to do. I mean, how many chances am I supposed to give? How many times am I supposed to look the other way, hoping that this time she's telling the truth? I felt like a fool. Like I had been strung along, and no matter what she said, I couldn't trust her anymore. When she came downstairs, all ready for our family outing, I couldn't even look at her. I told her I wasn't feeling well and that she should take the kids to the park without me. She looked disappointed, but she didn't argue. So she left with the kids, and I stayed behind, sitting on the couch, trying to wrap my head around what just happened. For hours, I sat there, going back and forth in my mind. Should I confront her again? Should I finally pull the trigger and leave? I felt paralyzed by indecision. I knew I couldn't keep living like this, but the thought of tearing our family apart, it just breaks me. I love my kids more than anything, and the idea of not seeing them every day, of not being there when they wake up in the morning or when they need help with homework, it's devastating. Later that night, when she came back with the kids, I still hadn't made up my mind about what to do. We went through the motions of dinner, bedtime routines, the whole usual thing. But after the kids were asleep, Lisa sat down next to me and asked, "Are you okay? You've been really distant today." I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to throw her phone in her face and demand to know why she couldn't just let him go, why she kept lying to me over and over again. But instead I just said, "I'm tired, Lisa. I'm tired of this." She looked confused. "Tired of what?" "All of it," I said, barely keeping my voice steady. "Tired of pretending like everything's okay when it's not. Tired of you telling me you've stopped talking to him when you haven't." The color drained from her face again. She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "I saw the message, Lisa. I saw it this morning. You said you blocked him, but clearly you didn't." She sat there, stunned, for a moment before whispering, "I didn't respond. I didn't meet him. That doesn't matter." I snapped, finally losing my cool. "You still lied to me. You told me you blocked him, and you didn't. How am I supposed to believe anything you say after this?" Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't care. Not this time. I had reached my breaking point. "I don't know what to say," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I don't know why I didn't block him. I know I should have. I don't know. I'm sorry. Sorry." That's all she ever says now. "I'm sorry." But sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't undo the betrayal, doesn't erase the lies. And I don't think I can live like this anymore. I told her I needed space. I didn't say I was leaving, yet, but I said I needed time to think. Time to figure out what the hell I'm going to do, because right now, I feel trapped in a situation where no one wins. If I stay, I'm miserable, constantly wondering if she's lying to me again. If I leave, I lose my family, my kids, the life we've built. She cried when I said that. She begged me not to leave, not to give up on us. But I told her this wasn't just about her anymore. It's about me. It's about what I need to heal, and I can't do that when I'm surrounded by all this hurt. So that's where we are now. I'm sleeping in the guest room, trying to figure out my next move. I don't know if I'm ready to leave for good, but I can't keep pretending things are okay when they're not. Has anyone else been through this? How did you know when it was time to walk away? Because right now, it feels like the walls are closing in, and I don't know how much longer I can stay. It's been a few days since I moved into the guest room, and the atmosphere in the house is heavy. It feels like we're living in two separate worlds now, just going through the motions for the sake of the kids. Lisa tries to talk to me, but every time she opens her mouth, I feel this wave of frustration and anger building up inside me. I can't even look at her without remembering the texts, the lies, the betrayal. The kids have noticed something's off. I'm trying to keep things as normal as possible for them, but they're smart. They can sense that something's wrong between us. Matt asked me yesterday, "Why aren't you sleeping in your room anymore, Dad?" It broke my heart. I didn't know how to explain it to him without giving too much away, so I just told him I wasn't feeling well and needed some space to sleep better. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't buy it. He's only 10, but he's not dumb. He knows when something's up. Meanwhile, Lisa's been trying harder. She's been cooking more, spending time with the kids, and trying to have more family moments, but it all feels forced. Like she's putting on a show to convince me that she's changing, that she's serious about fixing things. But I can't shake this feeling that it's all just temporary, that she's only doing this because she's afraid I'm going to leave. And to be honest, I still don't know if I'm staying or going. One night this week, after the kids were asleep, she came into the guest room and sat on the edge of the bed. I was lying there, pretending to watch TV, but I knew what was coming. Another conversation. Another round of apologies. And I wasn't sure if I could handle it. "Jake," she started, her voice quiet and shaky. "I know I've hurt you more than I can ever fix. But I need to know, do you still love me? Do you think we can ever get past this?" I didn't answer right away. How do you answer a question like that when you're not sure of the answer yourself? "I don't know, Lisa," I finally said. "I honestly don't know." Her face crumpled, and she looked down at the floor, tears welling up in her eyes. "I can't lose you," she whispered. "I can't lose our family." I sighed, rubbing my temples. "It's not that simple. You made choices, Lisa. You chose to keep talking to him. You chose to lie. I can't just forget that, no matter how much I want to." She started crying again, and I felt a pang of guilt. But why should I feel guilty? I'm the one who's been wronged here. I'm the one picking up the pieces while she's trying to patch over the cracks with empty promises and apologies. "I don't know if love is enough," I said softly, after a long pause. "I love you, Lisa, but this has changed everything. I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were." She nodded, wiping her eyes, but didn't say anything. After a minute, she stood up and left the room without another word. The silence that followed was suffocating. I wanted to feel relief, like maybe that conversation had helped clear the air, but it didn't. Instead, it just left me feeling more lost than ever. I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering where we went wrong. Was it my fault? Did I miss the signs? Was I too focused on work, on providing for the family, that I didn't notice when she started drifting away? I keep telling myself that none of this excuses what she did. She had a choice, and she chose to betray me, to lie. But I can't help but wonder if I pushed her away, if I could have done something differently to prevent all of this. The other night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of us from before everything went to hell. There was one from our last family vacation. We were all smiling, Lisa's arm wrapped around me, the kids laughing in the background. We looked happy. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. But now, looking at those pictures, I wonder if it was all just an illusion. Were there cracks in our marriage back then that I just didn't see? Or did everything really fall apart because of Ryan? I've been talking to Rob more at work. He's the only one I've confided in about everything, and he's been a good listener. He doesn't tell me what to do, which I appreciate. Instead, he just listens and offers support when I need it. I told him about the latest argument with Lisa, and he said something that stuck with me. "Jake, you can't keep living in this limbo forever," he said. "You either work on it with her, really work on it, or you move on. But this back and forth is going to eat you alive." He's right. I know he is. But it's not as simple as just picking one path or the other. I feel torn in two directions. One part of me wants to try to fix things, for the kids' sake, for the sake of the life we built together. But the other part of me feels like there's nothing left to fix. That the foundation of our marriage has been cracked beyond repair. I've been sleeping in the guest room for over a week now, and it's starting to feel like a permanent arrangement. I wonder if that's a sign. If we're already living separate lives, just coexisting for the sake of the kids, maybe it's time to accept that this is the beginning of the end. But every time I think about divorce, I get this sick feeling in my stomach. I don't want to put the kids through that. I don't want to be a weekend dad. But can I keep living in a marriage where trust doesn't exist? Can I rebuild something that feels so completely broken? Lisa's been talking about counseling again. She wants us to try, to at least give it a shot before we make any final decisions. I'm considering it. Not because I think it'll magically fix everything, but because I need some clarity. I need to understand if there's even a chance at salvaging what we had, or if I'm just clinging to the past because I'm afraid of the future. I'm at a crossroads, and I don't know which way to go. Have any of you tried counseling after an affair? Did it help, or was it just a way of delaying the inevitable? I'm scared that I'll never be able to trust her again, no matter how much therapy we go through. But I'm also scared of what life looks like if we split up. How do you know when it's time to stop fighting and let go? Because right now, I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to save myself. It's been a few weeks since I posted last, and I think I've finally come to terms with the decision I've been avoiding for so long. It wasn't easy, and honestly, I'm not sure there's ever a perfect time or a perfect way to make a choice like this. But the more time I spent in that guest room, the more it became clear to me that our marriage was over long before I admitted it to myself. Lisa and I went to counseling like she wanted. I agreed because I thought maybe it would help bring some clarity. Maybe a therapist could guide us toward a path forward, whether that meant healing or walking away. The first few sessions were hard. I sat there, arms crossed, watching as Lisa poured her heart out about how much she regretted what she did, how she never wanted to hurt me, how she had lost herself. Our therapist asked me to share my side of things, and I did. I explained how broken I felt, how my trust in her was completely shattered. I told her about how I found the texts, how every time she lied, it chipped away at me until there was almost nothing left. The therapist asked me if I still loved her, and I didn't know how to answer. Because yes, a part of me will always love Lisa. She's the mother of my children, the woman I spent over a decade building a life with. But that love isn't the same. It's tainted now, tangled up in betrayal and hurt. Over time, I realized something. No amount of counseling, no amount of apologies, no promises or gestures could undo what had been done. The foundation of our marriage had been cracked too deeply, and no matter how hard we tried to patch it up, it wasn't going to hold. One night after another counseling session, I sat down with Lisa and told her how I felt. I was done pretending that things could go back to the way they were. I told her I wanted a divorce. I'll never forget the look on her face when I said it. Her eyes filled with tears, and she didn't say anything at first. Then she nodded slowly, like she knew it was coming but had been hoping for a different outcome. "I don't want this," she said, her voice shaking. "But I understand. I hurt you in ways I can't fix." For once, I felt like we were both being honest with each other. There was no more pretending. We both knew the truth. We weren't the same people we were before, and no amount of therapy could bring back what we had lost. We agreed to keep things as civil as possible, especially for the kids. We sat down together and had a long talk about how we would approach this with Matt and Emily. We decided not to rush anything. We would start by separating and gradually work our way toward divorce, making sure the kids were taken care of emotionally and that the transition was as smooth as possible. When we finally told them, it was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. Matt looked confused, and Emily started crying, asking why we couldn't stay a family. We reassured them that we still loved them, that nothing between them and us would change. We'd both be there for them, even if we weren't together as a couple anymore. But watching the confusion and sadness in their eyes, it crushed me. It's a pain I don't think I'll ever fully get over. After that conversation, I moved out. I'm staying with Rob for now while I look for a place of my own. We're working on the legal side of things, splitting the house, sorting out custody arrangements. It's messy and it's painful, but in a strange way, I feel lighter. For the first time in months, I'm not living in that constant state of anxiety, wondering what Lisa's up to, wondering if she's still lying. It's over now. And while that brings its own set of challenges, it's also a kind of freedom. I won't lie and say it's easy. It's not. Some days, I wake up and wonder if I made the right choice. I wonder if I should have fought harder, tried longer. But deep down, I know that staying in a marriage where trust is gone is like living in a house built on sand. Sooner or later, it's going to crumble, no matter how hard you try to hold it together. I still see the kids all the time, and that's what keeps me going. I'm doing my best to make sure they know I'm here for them, that they're my priority. It's going to be a long road, but I'm focused on building a new life for myself and for them. One where I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next betrayal. As for Lisa, we're trying to co-parent as peacefully as we can. It's awkward, and sometimes emotions flare up, but we're committed to making it work for the kids. She's apologized 100 times since I told her I was leaving, and maybe she really does feel sorry. But in the end, some things are too broken to fix. And I'm finally at peace with that. So that's where things stand. It's not the happy ending I wanted, but maybe it's the one I needed. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes, letting go is the only way to move forward. To anyone reading this who's been through something similar, my advice is simple: trust yourself. Don't ignore the red flags, don't settle for half-truths, and don't be afraid to put your own well-being first. It's hard, and it's painful, but sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Thanks for being there for me, Reddit. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm finally ready to face it.